Hello and welcome to this Learn, Make, Create episode with Annie's Creative Studio. I'm Heather Valentine and I'm excited to share this rainbow puff quilt with you today. The design by Chris Malone is absolutely adorable and will make the perfect gift for any new addition in your family. In today's class, I'll be showing you how to create texture with the use of inserts. We'll be setting our blocks on point and of course, talking about some quilting. Now, if you're already a member of Annie's Creative Studio, go ahead and download your pattern. But for those of you that are new, I invite you to join us on a trial-free membership and you can take a look at all the classes that we offer. All right, now let's get to the project. Before we begin, let's take a few minutes to chat about our supplies needed to complete our quilt and talk about a little bit of prep work. Now, I've gone ahead and laid out all of my supplies on my cutting table, and this way it'll make it easy to show. You can see that we have a rainbow selection of fabrics. Now you can use solids, scrappy prints, anything you like. You will also need your neutral fabric that you'll be using for your borders, inner squares, and sashings. Of course, a copy of the printed pattern. Some Fiberfill in order to stuff inside those little pocket inserts. You'll be using some batting, and I want to share a quick tip. If you have any scraps of batting left over from other quilting projects, this is going to be the perfect project for you to utilize it. So go ahead, grab them out. Don't worry, we all have them tucked away in a closet somewhere, but seriously, this is your project. And then you're going to need your self-healing cutting mat, your rotary cutter, a ruler, scissors, coordinating thread, pins, all the details. But one thing I want to mention is that you're going to want to pull out your quilting foot. So go ahead, gather all of your supplies, and then we're going to talk about some prep work. Okay, now that you have them all gathered, I just want to chat a little bit more, and if you've taken one of my classes before, you know how much I love to share quick tips and how important prep work is to me. So one of the first things you'll notice is that I have these little letter squares, and they are going to be perfect for helping keep you on track. They're going to keep all of your rows organized and perfect so that your rainbow order does not get out of sync. So they're good to have. If you don't have them in a printed form looking all fancy like that, don't worry about it. You can easily just write it down on a piece of paper and put it on all of your tabs. Now, another big tip that I just want to share before you dive into your cutting is that if you're using your main fabric for both your sashing, borders, and inner squares, that you want to go ahead and cut your borders first. Okay, those are your longest pieces, and the reason why I suggest that is because you don't want to take a chance that you then go through and cut out all of your squares and your inner sashings and find out that you're left with like a really odd looking piece left over to cut through. You want to make sure that you have evenly cut pieces to put all around the outside of your quilt border. Then, because we are putting all of these blocks on point, when you are cutting your sashing, I highly want to encourage you to add an extra inch or two. Now, this is because the blocks are going to stretch as we stitch them all together. So depending on how comfortable you are and how skilled you are, you may want to add 1 inch or you may want to add 2. Don't worry, it's totally up to you, and I will help walk you through it when we get to that stage in the project. So go ahead, start cutting out your pieces, and then we will begin to assemble our puffs. Okay, now that we have all of our pieces cut out, it's time to assemble our little puffs. Now you can see right here that it has a little bit of polyfill on the inside of it, and it has dimension. Now this is what we're going to creating. Each one has a little bit of a pleats around all 4 sides, and you're going to create that really simply. Nobody has to worry about marking anything, and I'm going to show you how. So the first thing that you're going to need is your stack of A fabrics, which is all of your bright tonal colors that we're going to use. I've got a couple of reds here. And then you're going to need your whites, which are the B's. We are going to be putting the wrong sides together. Okay, since mine is a white on white, I want to make sure that I have it right. And all you're going to do is line up each corner and simply go right around. So we want to take the top brightly colored piece and we want to align the corner to corner and just pin it in place. Okay, and you're going to do that all the way around on all 4 corners. And then what you're going to do is notice that there's all of this excess in between, right? And that is going to be how we're going to create our pleat. Now you can do this 2 ways. You can take a pin and actually pin it down, okay, in place, but it's really not that much excess fabric. Or you can simply just fold it over and then stitch all the way around. Now we are going to stitch around 3 sides, so let me do that really quickly at my machine and show you what I mean. Okay, so now you can see here that I have stitched it around all 3 sides and there is a little bit of fullness. Now, after I have that complete, you're going to take a little bit of the filling and put it inside and then just completely stitch that last corner. Now, I didn't put too much inside. You can see that if I push it all the way down, there's only a little bit inside. And I did this because I want to make sure that I have enough room to stitch. If you overfill it, it will be too hard to assemble all of your units together later on at the machine and it'll be really bulky. But on a quick tip, I want to make sure that you understand that you need to put about the same amount of filling inside each puff, and this will create a universal size and even consistency throughout your entire project. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch together this last corner, and then we are going to create, through repeating all of these steps, all of our colored squares. So you're going to do it for each color. Now that all of our puffs are complete, it's time to work on the inset squares. Now, each square is going to have 3 rows of top stitching or quilting on it and also a piece of batting scrap on the wrong side. So in order to create this, we're going to need our pile of squares that you've already pre-cut out of the fabric and also out of your batting. The best way to do this is to take your center square and make sure that you have the wrong side. So if you're using a white on white, you want to really test for it and check. Make sure that you can see the print, and then you are going to take your square of batting and place it directly in the center. Now this is the wrong side and the batting, so that when we flip it over, we have the right side and we are stitching through all the layers. Now you can do this 2 ways. You can go ahead and take your heat erasing marking tool and your ruler and just draw a line corner to corner, and then we need one that is 1 inch away, right? Do that on all of them. So you can do that in advance, or depending on the type of machine that you have, you may be able to take it directly to the machine and use the laser guide feature. Now I'm working on a Baby Lock Destiny and it has this laser beam. So I am simply going to take my squares and layer them up. Okay, and I'm going to put a pin right in the center. Makes it a little bit easier. Let's do it on both pieces. And then I can just simply stitch corner to corner through all of the layers. Now one thing I'll note is that I increase my stitch length just a little bit so that it gives it a little bit of give and the adjustability for all of the dimension and extra height of the batting. So you may want to go ahead and do that to yours as well. And then it's simply all about stitching corner to corner. Now after I have all of my squares stitched with the center, I will then go back and add my 1 inch line. And this is just easier for me. You decide how you personally would like to work. So you can either do it that way, or you can take this and stitch them all at the same time. Either way, no matter which method you choose, they will both look like this in the end. So go ahead, stitch up all of your squares, and don't forget those little corner pieces, those G triangle pieces that you pre-cut. And we want to make sure that we get all that stitching out of the way, and then it's all just about simple assembly. Now that all of our stitching is done and our puffs are created, it is time to actually make our rows. So you're going to make sure that you have everything all in piles, and then it is simple assembly. You just follow the diagram directly included in your pattern, and I'll show you just how easily it comes together. So you can see here that I'm just alternating pieces one by one, and that they will line up very simply. Now, then you'll have your corner piece, a side unit, and also your end. And after you have all of them kind of lined up in rows, you will simply just put two pieces together, okay? So I'm gonna shift all of these over to the side, and I'm gonna work just with this row right here. I know that these pieces need to come together, and I'm just going to join them piece by piece. Now, this is exactly where I was saying if you have too much fullness in here, it makes this really tricky to do. But since I know you didn't overstuff them, you're going to be just fine. Now, the best way to do this, I find, is if you push down all of the fill to the bottom of the puff, giving you enough room to maneuver your pieces together. And then you can just pin them in place. And if you find that your fill is still kind of creeping up, you can always push it down and put a pin in place to kind of keep it down. Okay? And then just simply gonna turn my laser off. Then just simply stitch them in place using the correct seam allowance. Okay, and you can see them come together. Now I will say this can be tricky, so you want to make sure that you keep everything kind of in rows and symmetrical so that you never lose your place. And if you do happen to have all of those letter tabs, this is the perfect opportunity for you to use them. Now I'm going to attach my next piece, and you can see I'm just gently moving the polyfill down. I'm sliding it down. I'm just going to put that right there. It holds all of the fill off to the side. And then I can align this, pin it in place, and stitch. Makes it so simple. Okay, and then after you have it stitched together, you can just remove your pin, and you can see the texture on your quilt row actually start to come together. So I'm just going to continue assembling and continue to put my quilt top together in order, creating each row in the beautiful colors as I go. All right, we've joined all of our pieces together. You've squared everything up, and it is ready for quilt sandwiching. Now I've gone ahead and I've taken like my little sandwich, my little sampler sandwich, and I've put it together. You can see here that I have my backing fabric print side down, then my batting, and then I have layered my quilt top on top of it. I have pinned it together in different places just to keep it from shifting, and then I'm going to head to the machine. Now on your machine, you're going to want to put your walking foot, sometimes known as your quilting foot, and this will help stitch through all those layers. And all you're going to do is stitch through all the way around your squares, and then you can bury your knots either in between, or you can go in a pattern in a grid all the way down, whichever you prefer. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my quilting and move on to the next step. After your quilting is complete, it's time to just add that binding. Then you're all set to wrap up your quilt for that new bundle of joy. Thank you for joining me in class today. The Rainbow Puffs baby quilt is perfect for the prince or princess in your world.